Have you ever heard pastors or prophecy teachers say the Great Tribulation is 7 years long? Now let's be clear. The Bible never calls it 7 years. That's a common misunderstanding. The Great Tribulation, the real Great Tribulation, the period of intense persecution and wrath under the Antichrist, lasts 3.5 years, not 7. Now let's open the scriptures and see what they actually say. Daniel 9:27 is where many people get the idea of a 7-year tribulation. It says, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblations to cease." Now in prophecy, a week represents 7 years. That's true. But notice this. The Antichrist breaks the covenant in the midst of the week. That's halfway through, or after the 3.5 years. That moment, when he caused the sacrifice to stop and set up the abomination of desolation, marks the beginning of the Great Tribulation. So while the final week of Daniel's prophecy is 7 years total, the tribulation itself only covers the last half, the final 42 months, or 1,260 days. That's the time period repeatedly mentioned in Revelation chapters 11 through chapter 13. Now, Paul confirms this in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 through 4. He says, "That day shall not come," speaking of the rapture, "except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalt himself above all that is called God." This man of sin, the Antichrist, will sit in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That's the same abomination of desolation Daniel spoke about. And Paul makes it clear the revealing of the Antichrist happens before the coming of Christ and before the gathering of the saints. Once he's revealed, he reigns for that final 3.5 years, not 7. Now, Jesus himself explains it perfectly in Matthew chapter 24, verses 15 through 21. He says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, then shall be great tribulation." There it is. When you see the abomination of desolation, then the great tribulation begins. That moment happens in the midst of Daniel's final week, not at the start. Jesus doesn't mention a 7-year period. He points directly to the 3.5 year span after the